I believe we're on now, and this week we are at a different time, an earlier time. So for those of you that have your notifications on, feel free to join us. Thank you for being with us. For the future of the podcast, because of work out with the show, we are going to pre-record episodes going forward and try and get into a schedule of uploading them on a specific day at a specific time to YouTube and whatever different platforms we have access to. So for a quick episode of the W Factor, it's been a couple of weeks, we're going to cover Survivor Series. Obviously quite a big event in wrestling and WWE specifically as well. This Survivor Series also marked the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker's debut and his retirement from the business. And a lot of people are hesitant to believe that that's the case, but I think Mark Calaway behind the Undertaker character is actually quite looking forward to being able to expose a little bit of his personality, which he's not been able to do. It has been mainly the character, and you can't really break kayfabe with the Undertaker.
Recently, I've been seeing a lot of interviews and streams of the Undertaker as himself, as Mark
Calaway.
Recently, I watched one where it was people on a video call asking him just a question each, just fans and all that, and he just really talks about what he loves about wrestling, and he's in this pure political office as well, because he wants to go with politics in the future as well.
A lot of people are doing that just now. A lot of wrestlers are looking forward to
especially
that.
His counterpart Kane, who has already been very successful.
The mayor of Knox County,
I think so,
Glenn Jacobs,
but yeah, it's really good seeing this new side of him, because people ask him, was there anything that you wish you've done in the 30 years of wrestling, or 34 years, and he says no, he's quite content with his life and what he's done.
He was on the Broken Skull Session podcast with Steve Austin, and he talked about how in his life, in his career with wrestling and WWE, he's made a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that he regrets, but now that he is out with the character of The Undertaker, he can seek forgiveness for those things and focus on not making those mistakes again. So a lot of the stuff he regrets is missing time with his kids, missing time with his family, which he can't get back, but he still has a young daughter and a wife that he can focus on spending time with, so he can redeem himself there, which is good.
He's probably rich as well, so he doesn't really need to look for work at all.
Well, did you see any of his cameo stuff?
I don't think so, no.
So he was charging people $1,000 to say whatever the hell they wanted him to say, and he did 30 in the space of the day that he announced he would be on Cameo, which is $30,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe that was taxed or maybe he has to pay some money to Cameo, but that's still a lot of money to make in about half an hour of him.
He's just an icon.
A lot of them are quite funny. I would suggest to you and any of our listeners to go online and see if you can find some of the cameos. There's one where somebody asks him to say Elite, specifically for AEW of course, and Scooby-Doo. There's someone that asks him to wish their gran a 91st birthday, and the Undertaker starts off by saying Granny. And honestly, people must have just asked him to say loads of stuff, and he's now doing it for the fans. He's not doing it for a company. He's not doing it for wrestling. He's now just doing it for the fans. And I think as well, when he was on the Broken Skull Session with Stone Cold, Stone Cold asked him, so how does it feel to be able to talk about the road and talk about, you know, your time in wrestling behind the curtain? And Undertaker was like, it's great not having to uphold this sort of facade, like, oh, I can't say this because I'm the dead man, or I can't tell them this because I'm the American badass, whereas now he can come out and say, this guy was annoying to work with, this guy was great to work with, I remember me and Vince getting into a massive fight. Like, he can actually not expose the business, but
express
himself as a human being, which is great.
Yeah, he talked about his fight with Mankind and throwing him off the steel cage, and talked about how that was like an out of body experience and all that.
Yeah, as soon as he threw him off, you can see if you rewatch it, you know, now with that knowledge, you can see that he does look around to the thousands and thousands of people watching him, and he himself does kind of look stunned.
Yeah.
I thought, was it that match he had the broken ankle, or was it a match with Triple H he had a broken ankle?
He did go out many times injured.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God. Yeah.
I don't know. I forgot what one it was.
They teach you not to do that anymore, but at the same time, people don't really acknowledge that lesson because of their passion for either the money or the business, whatever that may be.
He's also like on these podcasts and stuff that like disagreed with writing in WWE. Talked about how he said Brock Lesnar, when he beat him in that streak, didn't need to do that, didn't deserve that, because he already had so much exposure. He said that Roman Reigns should have broken the streak. I agree, because he was.
Do you think we'll get an Undertaker podcast, like a Talking with Taker or something like that? I would like to.
Under with the Dead Man.
Yeah,
something like that. I'd love that.
I would love to inside the coffin.
Yeah.
I'd love Mark Calloway to have his own podcast. He can have guests on, or he can just take fan questions, whatever. But I think it would be good. I think it would be good. So Survivor Series 2020, we start off with a nice tribute to The Undertaker, a nice video package, a nice sort of recap of his career. You get to see the Mankind match, you get to see his match with Stone Cold, you know, the debut of Kane especially as well when he was in the Hell in a Cell. So a lot of good moments, and it was, as much as it is Survivor Series and there was a really good match card scheduled for the event, a lot of the event did seem to focus on The Undertaker, which I do not have a problem with at all.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably best to have all the focus on The Undertaker rather than having all the focus on somebody that's actually having a match at Survivor Series and kind of ruin or make the match predictable, ruin the story, if you will. So I think the not because it wasn't constant reminders, it was maybe after you get the tribute at the beginning, you get the tribute at the end, and then a couple of times in between, you know, everything goes dark and you hear the gong, and then it talks about, you know, the last ride on the WWE Network, or it talks about Stone Cold having him on the Broken Skull session and stuff. So it's just a few reminders out there to mention that it is still a tribute to The Undertaker.
Yeah, like it's the most you can do when there isn't an audience there.
Yeah. So, diving straight into Survivor Series, we do start off with the first match of this evening being a 5-on-5 elimination match. So, we've got Team Raw, which is Braun Strowman, Sheamus, Keith Lee, AJ Styles, and Matt Riddle. AJ Styles does come out with his bodyguard or his assistant, or they haven't really acknowledged who he is, but they've actually given him a name, which is Omos.
Yeah.
OMOS, which I suppose it's because I googled him and his name is like Jason Omogbahine or something like that, so I suppose it almost does sort of, you know, come off, it does sort of roll off the tongue quite easily in comparison to his real name. But they still, I don't know who he is. They haven't really spoken about how AJ Styles, why he comes out with them. Is he being paid? Is he, is it AJ's employee? Is he supposed to be like Wardlow to MJF? He doesn't say anything Wardlow sometimes has talking parts here and there, not a lot, but like one line.
He has like a personality to him.
This guy's just like a building in a suit.
He is a foil to MGF.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's just kind of there.
So that's Team Raw. Team SmackDown, we've got King Corbin, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, Otis and Seth Rollins. So both teams are in disarray. So Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins and King Corbin are all arguing that they're the leaders. And then we know from watching Raw the past couple of weeks that AJ Styles is claiming to be the leader. However, Strowman, Sheamus, Keith Lee and Matt Riddle all feel that they're the leaders. So because neither team has coordination and neither team has a leadership, they're just all over the place. Nobody's sure who wants to be tagged. Nobody's sure who to tag in. Nobody's sure if they want to be tagged in. So there's a point where Matt Riddle, he starts off the match. Matt Riddle goes to tag somebody in, and the person sort of leans back as if they're like, well, I don't want in yet. Whereas a teammate would be like, right, okay, out you come, I'll go and work him over and then we'll swap again. So both teams are in disarray, but Raw is the only team that managed to pull it together. And this is mainly after Seth Rollins tags himself in, gets in the ring, gets on his knees and holds his arms out and says that he's doing it for the greater good. Sheamus kicks him straight in the face and he is eliminated. So
I was watching it. It was just, before you could just see him standing there, holding on, just death staring into the openness, the emptiness. And I was just like, Seth looks so depressed, and
I think obviously we know that he's leaving. Well, that should be his last appearance. I thought his last appearance was actually going to be on last week's Raw when him and Rey Mysterio concluded their storyline. I thought that would have been the point where Seth Rollins left, but he was at Survivor Series and sacrificed himself for no other reason than he didn't want to fight, I suppose. It's for the greater good, as he said. So he left, and that should be the last time we see him on television. He's away on his paternity leave now because Becky Lynch is ready to pop.
What I find weird though is that, like, he didn't need to take the bro kick. He could have just laid down and let the pin happen.
Yeah.
It was so weird to let himself get hurt by a vicious kick.
Corey Graves on commentary said that he made himself a martyr. Because obviously Corey Graves is your colour commentary, so he talks about how the heel is doing this because he's really a good guy. He will be Corey Graves will be the person that mentions that Seth Rollins was right in the Rey Mysterio storyline. He will be the guy that's like, no, he's not bringing people into a cult. He's bringing people into his team so that they can then shine on their own. It's like, no, Corey, it's clearly a cult. So Corey Graves says that he sacrificed himself to make himself a martyr. But a martyr, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but a martyr's supposed to inspire his people. Yeah, Seth Rollins didn't inspire fuck all. He lets himself get pinned. He takes the bro kick, lets himself get pinned, and then leaves. And his team still do not change their fighting style. They do not come together as a team. They just remain as they were.
My main issue with commentary is that they're so one note and one sided nowadays. Like one guy likes heel, one guy likes babyface, that kind of thing. It's like,
and then there's one guy in the middle that's normally Michael Cole telling you that you can get the WWE Network for $9.99 a month.
I know. Like, why can't we just have a nice, maybe like more dimensional commentary team? Like Samoa Joe talks about how Roman Reigns has changed from one man to this beast that he is now. I find that quite interesting. But no, we just hear these guys going, oh no, he's good, he's not actually bad. It's just I don't know.
I think there's a leaf to be taken out of the books of the commentators on Dynamite. I would say, because I don't think there's been a week where we've had any complaints about them, apart from one week where JR clearly had a couple of whiskies before the show and had a couple of things to say about female wrestlers. But apart from that, he was great. I think as well, maybe a guest on commentary would have been good. So we know that JBL was there because he was at the tribute later on that night. I think JBL would have been great. JBL has covered Survivor Series matches before, and he has been a lot better than Corey Graves as the colour commentator. Your play-by-play, a good play-by-play it's either Jim Ross or Michael Cole. They have been good play-by-plays. And then your third commentator, which will cover the face, and sometimes you get a bit of a backstory. Really anyone can cover that one because they're pretty much just reading the person's biography. It's always the same stuff that kind of comes up. So like John Cena, in John Cena's matches, the commentators would always say the same stuff about him, like week in, week out. They would just repeat themselves because there's only so much to say about the face. It's the heel you're supposed to be interested in, and the play-by-play is obviously what you would get in any sort of sports, where they talk about the moves and they talk about where the person learned the moves, they talk about how effective the move was, and stuff like that. I don't think WWE has good commentators just now.
A lot of the time when I look back in WWE, I always forget the commentary.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like wrestling could do without commentary entirely.
It's good to forget about Jerry Lawler's commentary, where he was just a massive pervert. Like, you couldn't have Jerry Lawler calling a women's match sensibly. He would be screeching down the mic like a pterodactyl. He would be talking about the size of their breasts and stuff like that. So I don't know, because in the background of a wrestling match, I kind of feel that it needs something. Even if it's just somebody talking about the moves, you don't need a colour commentator, you don't need the face commentator. Just have the play-by-play, or have two play-by-plays, a good guy and a bad guy on commentary, sort of going against each other.
Like, the whole point of a commentary is to react, I'd say.
Yeah.
To like because there's the audience, of course, that would be reacting, and like they're the main point, but like the commentary should give like such these exaggerated reactions to make it more larger than life. I don't know. It's just disappointing.
I think commentary something to be looked at, but so we then have Otis, who jumps in for Team SmackDown, and he does quite well taking on Braun Strowman and Keith Lee. We get to see a moment where he picks up Braun Strowman over the head and then drops him. So that's quite a good feat of strength. However, they still have him do funny stuff. They still have him do the worm. They still have him be like, oh yeah, and stuff like that, like the Kool-Aid guy. But I kind of feel that Otis's character needs a change.
Yeah. Because
his girlfriend get moved over to Raw. She's now injured and he's not had a chance to see her. His best friend and tag team partner betrayed him. He lost his money in the bank, and I think we mentioned this the last episode, that his character should be depressed and angry, and not really trying to be funny, because who is he trying to be funny for anymore? Whereas we just don't get that. We get strong Otis that then turns himself into a joke character again, which I didn't like. Everyone gets eliminated in the SmackDown team one at a time. Kevin Owens puts up a decent looking fight, and then he's gone. King Corbin, I don't like Baron Corbin. I never have liked Baron Corbin. I just don't think he's great at all.
I don't like his character all that much, but I think he's a capable wrestler.
He's probably more capable now than he has ever been, because there was a lot of mistakes, there was a lot of injuries, there was a lot of people getting hurt. It was a bit like the Nia Jax a few years ago.
But like I was watching him during that Survivor Series, and he looked a lot better than he usually did.
Yeah, I think he pulled out a pay-per-view performance to a Baron Corbin standard. So it ends with Jey Uso taking on all 5 members of Raw.
Yeah, it was like Otis versus everyone, and then Otis got put out, and then Jey Uso versus everyone.
So it was Jey Uso versus Roman, Sheamus, Keith Lee, AJ Styles, and Riddle. Honestly, I thought Jey Uso did quite well against 5 people, but ultimately he gets eliminated. You get to see Paul Heyman backstage, and he kind of looks
distraught.
Yeah, he kind of looks distraught. He's kind of realising that Jey Uso's getting no chance. So unfortunately, yes, he does have no chance. He gets eliminated, and Raw wins 5-0, which storyline wise I thought was strange, but for Jey Uso's story progression, it's quite good to have SmackDown be completely embarrassed and have Jey Uso being someone that sits at Roman Reigns' air quotes table as Roman sits at the top. I thought it was quite good for the storyline, but other than that, I thought it was just silly to have SmackDown lose that much.
I found it quite weird seeing someone like Kevin Owens, a former Universal Champion, being put out and all that. I don't know, it just, a lot of it seems quite... It doesn't feel natural when you watch it.
No, it was... to me, it was quite a disappointing men's elimination match. I didn't feel there was a lot of creativity. I thought the 5-on-1 was probably the most interesting part, and it only lasted 5 minutes, maybe less, and then it was just an absolute spanking for Team SmackDown. So Team Raw win 5-0. They all celebrate in the ring. They all line up and do their own individual pose, which I thought was okay. I think if they'd done some sort of like unified pose, it would have been quite a good way to round it off. The team starts off in disarray, they somehow pull it back, and then they somehow dominate, and then at the very end they're kind of like, do you know what, we're not a bad team. But they all did their own individual poses. So next up we've got the New Day versus the Street Profits. The New Day being the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits now being the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Not a bad match. Good performance from Xavier Woods. Kofi Kingston was doing a lot of high flying, which is good. The Street Profits, we had a really nice frog splash from one of the guys in the Street Profits, the skinny one. I can't remember.
One with like the really big nipples.
Yeah, him. Yeah, the weird. Yeah. So a really good frog splash from him. When he gets a really good he gets a good height on his frog splashes.
Yes,
it's good.
that's all right.
The only thing I would say is there was a lot of near falls. I think there was something like 10 or 11 pin attempts, and it was all 2 all the way through. There was just, and I think we may have mentioned this, or somebody in the chat box might have mentioned it, is that sometimes modern wrestling has too many near finishes.
Yeah.
Just have like 1 or 2 attempts at a near finish and then the finish, or just have the finish. You don't have to do a near fall or anything like that. And unfortunately there was just too many here. So Street Profits pick up the win, which I was surprised at. I thought New Day was just going to be New Day, and they were going to retain. But no, Street Profits picked up the win, which was pretty cool. Now they came out in their Gears of War gear, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, that was cool. That was cool to see actually, like real life Gears of War armor like that. And Xavier Woods is a massive video game player and stuff. He's going to be at something called G4, isn't he?
I think so. I know that he won an award for being like top gaming entertainer of the year,
which is really cool.
Yeah, as like a WWE wrestler, balancing that with up, down, and all that,
and then being told that he couldn't work on any other third party platforms. He wins an award for working on a third party platform.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Woods probably looks the best in this match. This matchup.
He always looks great.
Ever since he came back from injury, he has been fast, strong. He looks good.
His muscles.
He's definitely worked out a lot. Like, he's not just sat back and played games or anything. He's definitely been working out. After that, we've got Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental Champion, versus Bobby Lashley, the United States Champion. Now, everybody knows that I don't like Sami Zayn just now, ever since his return. But his social media activity has been quite entertaining, quite interesting as well. He was talking about how Bobby Lashley is supposed to represent the United States, which is their country, and well, not Sami Zayn's country, he's Canadian, but he would talk about how because Bobby Lashley represents America, the land of the free and stuff like that, and he would go on. Basically, he would hype up Bobby Lashley for maybe the first couple lines, and then he would finish by talking about how Bobby Lashley's a bully, which is exactly what America is to the rest of the world. He would talk about how Sami Zayn's smart and Bobby Lashley, he's strong. There's no denying that he's a strong guy, but he doesn't have the brain capacity to beat him in the ring. I like him outside television, Sami Zayn. I think he's good. He makes some decent points. He's very open about WWE being frustrating. They released a Survivor Series T-shirt that he wasn't on, and he took a picture of it, and he said, I think it was number 34, and no, was it Ways to Annoy Sami Zayn, number 34, release a T-shirt that doesn't have one of your main champions on it, and he obviously just took a screen grab from the WWE shop, which I like it when they do that. I like it when they come out and openly say that they're not happy with certain things that are happening in WWE, albeit I believe they have to get some sort of approval before they come out and say really harsh stuff. A bit like MJF, whenever he has something to say and he mentions Tony Khan, I'm pretty sure he's told Tony that he's going to say something. So Sami Zayn's online stuff is good. So him and Bobby Lashley have an okay match where Sami Zayn does a lot of character work, where he hides, he jumps out of the ring, he runs about the place. He shows that he's scared that the Hurt Business are surrounding the ring, and he doesn't like that, although they've been told they can't get involved. Overall, it wasn't a great match, and it was just a normal finish. Bobby Lashley wins. That was it. The only thing I'll say that came out of this match is Bobby Lashley has the ability to now say that he's the only Raw champion that actually succeeded, and I think that's going to be good for his character, because the Hurt Business wasn't interesting, but it's starting to get even less interesting than what it originally was.
Especially now that they're not in Raw Underground.
I know.
No, is it Raw Underground?
It was originally Raw Underground.
Yeah.
That's gone. Retribution haven't made an appearance in a couple of weeks.
Have they not?
No, there was talks of Retribution appearing on Main Event, which I don't even know where to watch Main Event. Like, Main Event is one of these shows that they didn't televise. Then they did televise, but it wasn't on the USA Network. It wasn't on the Fox Network or anything like that. It was one of the ones where they would show it on the WWE Network. There would be no story progression. It would just be matches. There would be some backstage stuff, but you could skip it and you wouldn't have missed anything. So I believe they appeared on Main Event, which is just a shame. Asuka takes on Sasha Banks, and at this point I noticed that the Thunderdome looks bored. Every screen, people were looking around, people were on their phones, people were just looked like they were dead inside.
I'm surprised that they filled the Thunderdome at all.
Not only did they fill the Thunderdome, see the barrier on the outside of the ring?
Yeah.
There's screens under the barrier.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I think it was Drew and
Drew
Roman.
and
They
Roman.
go through the barrier and there's just people there.
They went through the barrier, and then there was like another 2 rows of screens that you can't see because of the barrier. I think
But why is the barrier there?
I suppose so people don't I don't actually know.
Yeah, the barrier is for fans to just stay
So
behind.
it was basically, it was a line to separate the fans from the wrestlers, but now there is no physical fans there.
So it's just a barrier.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they still do that then. But what was I going to say? One of the obviously the Thunderdome goes all the way around, but the hard camera only shows you one side of the Thunderdome and a little bit of the edge. So it could very well be that the people on that screen are being duplicated on this side, just so that there is, just so that they're filling it up. I went online and I got to the page where you register to appear on the Thunderdome, and I didn't enter any of my details because I was kind of like, does it matter? I'm not going to watch it live. I'm not going to... to me, it's just kind of like, it doesn't matter. It's cool that there's people that want to do it, and it's cool that they have a platform to do it in, but I'm not going to do it. It doesn't interest me.
It shouldn't really interest anyone. It's a physical thing, going to see a match like that.
Yeah, I would just go back to having the people behind the screens.
I love that.
It just makes more sense. And the screens had a good noise when you hit up against them. It was great.
It was really creative.
Yeah.
And this, because there's a barrier, it's not creative because you're blocking them from going there.
So it's strange. The Thunderdome looks bored, but they do perk up a little at this match between the two female champions. The match starts off really well, but it doesn't last long. It starts off really good for maybe 5-10 minutes, and it just starts to lose. Everything becomes quite repetitive. They do submission holds and stuff, but they do the same submission holds a couple of times. Both women are hitting quite hard as well. Like their moves are quite hard hitting. It does seem as if they do have a good impact. Near the end, I noted that they have a very unrealistic second wind. So it's not just a comeback, or it's not something that shifts the momentum of the match in your favour. Both women seem to just get full health for the rest of the match. Now, a comeback isn't supposed to last. A comeback is supposed to give you the upper hand, and then you return to being tired. But at least now your opponent has taken an injury or taken damage or whatever. But both women just seem to go back to full health and full momentum. And to me, it just came across as really unrealistic. Sasha Banks then picks up the win. A lot of people were quite surprised that they did that. A lot of people were looking for Asuka to be the winner, but they haven't really done much with it. There wasn't really much on Raw the next night to really explain that Asuka lost and if there's any consequences or anything. They just sort of moved on. We then get a recap of the 24/7 belt, where during the kickoff show, R-Truth lost the belt to Akira Tozawa, who lost it to the Gobbledygooker.
See, when I saw that thing, I just skipped it.
So yeah, well, I'll give you a quick recap of what you missed then. The Gobbledygooker wins the 24/7 belt on the kickoff show. He then proceeds to hold it all the way through until this point, where Akira Tozawa has laid out some birdseed, where the Gobbledygooker follows the birdseed, and as he's distracted, Akira Tozawa pins him with a ninja referee. R-Truth then pins Tozawa, and the ninja referee does the count for R-Truth. Now, I would have said that if you're not using an official referee, you're using a ninja referee, he should be on Tozawa's side, which means he wouldn't have counted R-Truth. However, R-Truth picks up the win, runs away, Tozawa chases after him, the ninja chases after him, and the Gobbledygooker gets up, and in his pursuit his shoe falls off, and he just leaves this big costume bird foot behind. Do you know who was under the mask of the turkey? Drew Gulak. The guy who's been in the scene for the 24/7 title. I don't know why they didn't just have him. I don't know much about the Gobbledygook. Apparently the character's been around for a while and he just appears and disappears. But it's just stupid.
They done the fake thing when it came up, didn't they?
It's not even it's not even funny. It's just stupid.
It's a Thanksgiving thing, I think.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But it's so stupid.
So we've got the women's elimination match after that.
Oh, yeah.
Team Raw is Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce and Lana. Nobody wants Lana to be on the team apparently. Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce are replacing Mandy Rose because she was injured by Nia Jax.
Yeah.
And replacing Dana Brooke because she was injured by Mia Yim. Mia Yim. I think it's Mia Yim. Yeah, who is in Retribution. So Retribution themselves haven't made an appearance, but one of their members have, who injured Dana Brooke.
Oh, you know what would be cool? Retribution taking over the brand that they're on to do Survivor Series.
That would have been cool.
That would have made a threat
and
like a consequence. So like if you lose, like if this brand loses against Retribution, what does that say?
Yeah.
You know? Oh god, why did they not do that?
Well, T-Bar. T-Bone?
T-Bar.
T-Bar.
T-Bone's the guy from Watch Dogs.
That's right.
I thought he was T-Bone.
That's right. T-Bar on social media, on Twitter, said that Retribution haven't stopped their mission to take down and destroy WWE. However, Undertaker, you're safe. Hashtag farewell Taker.
Shut.
And it was like, okay, but where were you at Survivor Series if you're here to destroy the establishment? You know, you had a great opportunity to get involved. So Team SmackDown consists of Bayley as the self-proclaimed captain, Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan and Natalya. Now, unlike Team SmackDown, Bayley has announced herself as the captain and everyone has agreed to it. Where Team SmackDown, obviously, everyone was the captain and nobody could agree to it. So there was a bit more consistency here. Lana tags herself in. She does quite well against Bayley, I believe. But she's tagged out. Nia Jax then shouts at her, tells her to stand on the steps and don't get involved. She's going to risk them the match if she keeps trying to compete. So Peyton Royce eliminates Bayley. Natalya tries to use a new submission move, fucks it up, so then gives up and just goes straight in for the sharpshooter. I don't know what submission she was trying to do, but she tried to entangle Peyton Royce's legs in between her own legs, but then on the turn, Peyton Royce's legs just fell out of the position that they were in. So I wouldn't even blame Peyton Royce because the legs were quite tightly pressed together, so if you take away the pressure, your legs are just going to spring out. It's not as if she ruined the submission move. Natalya just either didn't do it right or it looked good in her head and then she tried to actually do it in real life and it didn't work. The Thunderdome go back to looking very bored. Bianca Belair is tagged in for Team SmackDown and she shows off her skill set, her acrobatics, her gymnastics and stuff. She's actually pretty cool. It ends with Bianca Belair and Nia Jax being the only two left. Everyone gets eliminated throughout. It's just quite rubbish. Nia Jax and Bianca Belair are then counted out. I thought that was strange. I don't remember Survivor Series. I don't remember elimination matches having a count out, but apparently they do. So count out victory for Team Raw because Lana is the only person that survived on her team because she was the only person not allowed to compete after her first attempt. So there we go. A wee bit of story progression for Lana then. She was the sole survivor of Team Raw. She was given a women's title match on the Raw after because of her performance. She didn't win, however, she teamed up with Asuka to take on the tag team champions. And a lot of people are now thinking that Lana is going to become more prominent in the women's division, which I have no issue with because I do feel that it was quite unfair that they just continuously put her through tables and made jokes out of her. a lot of people thought that she was being punished because Rusev went to AEW, but that's nonsense. Vince McMahon doesn't. If Vince McMahon fires you, he doesn't care what you do. If he fires you and you go to AEW, that's awesome. If he fires you and you go to New Japan, that he doesn't care. Like, nothing changes his opinion. He probably doesn't look at people as couples either. So he doesn't look at Rusev and Lana. He just looks at Lana, and then Rusev was then fired, and he decided to keep Lana. So I don't think he cares. After that, we have I would say the main event. I know Survivor Series is supposed to be Raw versus SmackDown, but I would say the main event this evening is Drew versus Roman.
And rightly so.
I would say 5-star match.
It was... I wouldn't say 5, but I did really enjoy it. I loved watching that match.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Both guys tried to hit their finishers, and neither opponent would let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a couple of reverse Claymore kicks, there was a couple of reverse spears, there was a dodged Superman punch, but he managed to land the second one. No, was it the second? Was it the third one he managed to land? And no, my mistake. I'm getting confused. Later on in the match, we have Jey Uso come out to try and interfere.
Yeah.
Jey Uso hits Drew with a super kick, which he fights going down, like he stumbles about the ring and stuff. And then it takes a second kick to knock him down, which is quite good for the character, quite building the sort of the monster, not the monster. What would you call him? The warrior, Scottish warrior. I think they're calling him the Scottish warrior.
Yeah, they call him the Scottish warrior. I thought it was a Scottish psychopath.
Yeah, I think they changed that ever since he became a good guy.
I don't like that.
No, I quite Scottish psychopath just sounds better. Did he come out with a sword?
Yes.
He did. He came out with a sword in Survivor Series.
Jammed it right through the ground.
That's right. He came out with a sword at Survivor Series, and the first time we get him to come out with the sword, that was last week on Raw, just before Survivor Series, when he won the belt back. But it was really cool. I think his entrance is great now. I don't want to see the sword all the time.
No.
But I think we've been asking for it.
We've been asking for like a cool entrance.
Yeah, and I think Survivor Series, he's got the kill, he's got the sword. That'll do. That makes me happy. So as I say, I would say 5-star match. Luke would just say great match. Main event of the pay-per-view. I liked the way they finished it as well. They had a choke out where Roman Reigns locked on the guillotine chokehold, to which Drew, instead of tapping out and showing weakness, if you will, he passed out, which counts as a victory for Roman, and it also keeps Drew McIntyre looking good because he didn't lose, he didn't get pinned, he didn't get submitted, he was knocked unconscious, after having the oxygen ceased to flow to his brain. So fantastic.
It's also cool seeing a guy like Roman just like jumping up and clinging onto.
Compared to Drew, Roman's quite short looking.
Yeah.
Did you know? Yeah, you noticed that as well. Yeah. So yep, SmackDown seems to have done really well at Survivor Series. SmackDown didn't do well at Survivor Series. My mistake.
I was gonna say
Raw did good at Survivor Series. However, Roman did good for Roman. He wasn't there to represent his company. His brand. Sorry, he was just there to take on whoever wanted to face him and beat him, and he did that. He does shout at Jey Uso, and I haven't seen it, but apparently on SmackDown on Friday just past, him and Jey Uso had a confrontation because Jey Uso is trying to be too helpful now, and Roman is like, I'm not a child, I'm not a bitch, I'll fight my own battles, I don't need you to do anything, you could do it as you're told, which is just heel Roman. That's what a lot of people like about him just now. So we have a very strange moment, and I'll explain why it's strange in a second. We have lots of legends come out to celebrate The Undertaker's retirement. We've got Shane O'Mac, who comes out first, Big Show, JBL, Jeff Hardy, who's got nice Taker face paint on.
Oh, I love that.
Mick Foley, The Godfather comes out without any hose. The Goodwins. Now, I thought one of the Goodwins were dead, but apparently they're not. They're both there. Goodwins are here. Savio Vega, Rikishi, but he's what I thought was a wee bit strange. Rikishi doesn't make any sort of prior presence, considering what's going on with Roman and the Usos and the whole tribe thing. You kind of think that now that they imply that Rikishi's there the entire night. This whole section could have been pre-recorded, but they imply that Rikishi was there backstage during all the matches, but he didn't come out. You don't see him with his sons, you don't see him with his nephew or anything like that. So there we go. Rikishi's there. Kevin Nash. A lot of people said that he looked like he gained weight, but I thought he looked quite good. I thought he looked...
Oh yeah, after surgeries and all that.
After surgeries. He didn't look bulk, but he looked healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of people looked at him and said that he'd gained weight. We had Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, and Kane, who is the only guy that comes out in gear.
I think that's because
I think he has to.
Yeah,
I think
he is Kane.
If he was to come out as the character Corporate Kane, where he's just a guy in a suit, it would be weird, because Kane's whole thing is that he is the big red machine, he's the big red monster. He kind of needs to be in his gear.
As much as I like his mask,
yeah,
I would have liked to see him in his old mask.
Yeah, I mean the old mask with the new suit if they want, but I think if they went full debut outfit, that would have been quite cool, quite nostalgic for people. Ric Flair's wearing 2 watches.
Yeah.
Because he does this thing where he slaps the inside of his arms, and as he's doing that, his sleeves are pulling up, and he's got a watch on either arm. I'm not sure why. Nobody else has mentioned that on like social media or anything. There's not a lot of stuff in the wrestling world. People talking about it.
I guess.
Maybe.
Like,
I felt like I was going to say something else. It's something I mentioned to you. I don't know why Diamond Dallas Page wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because during the WCW invasion, Diamond Dallas Page was the stalker of The Undertaker's ex-wife at that time, or sorry, current wife at that time, but ex-wife now. Now I think when you and I discussed it, I kind of talked myself into explaining why he probably wasn't there, being the fact that the storyline started because he was stalking Undertaker's wife, and because him and his wife are no longer together, that might be why they didn't want to bring in Diamond Dallas Page. But as I explained to you, look, the storyline started out like that, but eventually turned into an actual feud between the two of them, and the prologue of the feud was forgotten about. But yeah, no Diamond Dallas Page, which I thought was strange. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, it's peculiar because all of these guys are in the ring, they all clap, they all shake hands, they all hug, and they celebrate the Undertaker, and then it fades to black, it comes back, and it's just Vince McMahon that's in the ring. Why bring all these guys out if they're not going to actually see the Undertaker?
It felt weird, didn't it?
It was like, right, okay, they're all out now, Vince will come out next, and then the Undertaker will come out. Nope, these guys will come out and then just disappear, never to be seen again. So Vince McMahon comes out, he talks about the Undertaker's career, he refers to WWF, which I liked, and then he talks about the Undertaker being loyal to the company and sacrificing so much for the company, and you can tell he's holding back tears because there's a couple of moments where mid-sentence he has to stop and sort of like look at the ceiling or look at his shoes or something, so he's definitely letting the emotions show for something like this. And now when was it, the first or second episode of The Last Ride, Vince McMahon's talking and he asks them to stop recording and he takes off the mic and stuff like that because he starts to get emotional.
He's very emotional.
It's good to see it's good to see Vince McMahon here to celebrate the Undertaker's career and show tears.
He prides himself on saying that the Undertaker's his biggest creation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I get why I would get emotional. But it's mostly the Undertaker that really made this all work. He is the locker room leader and all that as well.
Even when he's not there, he is the person you're striving to be.
Mm-hmm. He is beyond the titles, the championships.
So we get the Undertaker's theme song played with electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that? Yeah, it was like a weird electric version of his theme song. It made me think of one of the really old video games, like cartridge video games, and you would get the Undertaker coming out to this really weird sort of 8-bit theme song. Undertaker comes out after the song comes to an end, and they start to play the proper version now, but it seems as if there was just a bit more to it, like a bit more instruments involved. I thought it was a really good theme song. Have you heard the piano version?
No.
Piano version's great, and a lot of people wanted that to be in The Last Ride, but it wasn't, because it's not WWE created, it's fan created. But yeah, it's just a guy sitting at a keyboard or sitting at one of these grand pianos, and he just plays Undertaker's theme song.
Well, if they record it themselves, they can use it. So I don't get why they didn't.
No, but it's a lot of people love it. It's great. It's very. If you were to play it during this moment, you would have had a lot of people sort of breaking down in tears, because it's really good. I noted how upsetting it was that there was no crowd. There wasn't even a Thunderdome, because they used the Thunderdome screams to sort of to make like a gravestone, and
we talked about how we would have liked to have waited, like, because he can like unofficially retire, not do anything, and then make an official retirement event with like crowds of people.
When we spoke about it, both of us understand the significance of Survivor Series to the Undertaker, and it's 30 years to the day.
Mm-hmm.
But you could very well be looking at just another month or just another 2 months before we can get crowds in. Why not just hold off?
Like, he's gonna be alive. He's not.
It's not as if he's dying or anything. He's still going to be here. He's still got a lot of years in him. He's no longer putting his body through hell, so he's probably going to be the healthiest he's ever been.
He's gonna heal.
Yeah.
Did you see his coat?
Yes.
Changed
very cool.
I liked it.
I liked it as well. Yeah, sort of like the spikes and the buckles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked it. He says rest in peace, and luckily there's no grumble at the end of it. He came out on a special edition of Raw to celebrate some sort of a milestone, and he came out and he said rest in peace, but just after peace there was so he goes, rest in peace. There's like this extra bit of air or something that tries to escape, and it was he did. He took a lot of he took a lot of slagging for that online. A lot of people just copying that, so it was good that he never had a grumble after he says rest in peace for this.
They could easily cut it out as well.
They could have cut it out. So we have a hologram of Paul Bearer, which I've read a lot of people thought was stupid.
Yeah.
However, I liked it. I thought that without Paul Bearer, The Undertaker might not have been as successful. Much like Brock Lesnar, if your character doesn't talk, you need somebody to talk for you.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Paul Bearer, The Undertaker would not. People probably would have assumed The Undertaker was mute.
Yeah, Paul Bearer played a big part in the Kane.
As well. The Kane storyline, and even who else did Paul Bearer manage? Was it Mankind?
And Vader.
And Vader, Vader was another one. And Paul Bearer now has a documentary on the WWE Network that follows. Obviously, we had the Randy Orton one we then had the Brothers of Destruction, and then we were given a Paul Bearer one. I've not seen the Paul Bearer one, but I liked the first two documentaries that they uploaded sort of leading up to The Undertaker's retirement. So, yeah, that was Survivor Series. I really enjoyed it in comparison to all other pay-per-views this year
Yes.
that we've covered for WWE. I'm glad there was no Rey Mysterio storyline involved. I'm glad that there was no retribution involved, although character-wise it should have been involved.
Yeah.
I just feel, thank God they weren't there because that could have ruined it. Yeah, I'm probably going to say that there was more bad matches than there was good matches, but there was some more creativity than what there was blandness.
And like the matches that were good went above and beyond.
The matches that were good were really good, and they weren't just
the match, the main event.
The match, yeah, the main one, the big one. I'm going to say that this pay-per-view is 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
If this was a full crowd of people, I would give it like a 4 stars or like 4.5 because you have the crowd of people cheering on The Undertaker and Drew versus Roman Reigns. Sadly not, and like every rating will be affected by the no crowd being there.
It's the same as Impact. Currently, the only thing Impact have going for them is their backstage stuff because it doesn't need a crowd. All of their matches are good, but would be better with some noise in the background and not just the grunts and silence. Even the commentators in Impact will not say something for like 30 whole seconds, which in wrestling is an eternity, man. Yeah, without crowds, it's just not the same atmosphere. It definitely affects how matches are perceived, and I think that, as Luke said, if there was a crowd for The Undertaker's farewell and a crowd for the Drew versus Roman match, it would have been so much better. But we work with what we work with. And I think this was still the best pay-per-view this year for WWE. No. Since lockdown, this is the best pay-per-view because Royal Rumble was really good.
Oh, yeah,
there was still a crowd at the Royal Rumble, which is a shame.
With a big pop.
What about Full Gear?
Oh no, for WWE, this is the best pay-per-view
I thought you said
of lockdown.
Yeah, I agree.
For Full Gear, I would still say Full Gear was fantastic. Even Double or Nothing was really good as well at the beginning of the year.
WrestleMania wasn't great. The only thing that I had going for it was the John Cena versus Fiend match, which is still one of my favourite matches.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else about Survivor Series you want to talk about?
No, Survivor Series, that's sort of all I've got to say on Survivor Series.
I've got some news.
Okay, read out the news.
Let me get it up. So, Renee Young and Jon Moxley are pregnant.
That's true, yep. Did you hear that Jon Moxley revealed it? During a backstage promo. He said that he's got a pregnant wife at home. And yeah, during his promo towards Kenny Omega backstage, he mentioned he had a pregnant wife at home, and a lot of people were kind of like, well, that was a good promo. Wait, pregnant wife? And then Renee Young came out on social media and said, I suppose I can tell you all now. So Jon Moxley kind of burst the bubble in that one.
The Thunderdome is moving to a baseball stadium as well soon.
Oh. See, if you're going to move to a stadium like that, there's so much room to social distance.
I know.
You don't need the Thunderdome anymore. And you can also, it's also outdoors, or it can be made outdoors. I think you can shift the ceiling.
Yeah.
So there's no worry of, hundreds of people being in an enclosed space because it's not going to be enclosed with an open roof.
Okay. Is there anything at all like
so
a champion that you want to talk about? Like, because we don't really have much news as well.
Do you want to give someone a champion? Do you want to give
Do you want to announce a champion at Survivor Series, or do you want to hold off?
Nah, I'll hold off, but like, is there any matches you wanna?
Not really matches. I did want to talk about the Inner Circle slaying Las Vegas.
Okay.
Being quite funny, and I think that it's always good to try and focus on really funny stuff, especially during this time. Focus on the funny stuff, and I think AEW, MJF, Chris Jericho are giving us the comedy that we would like. Impact gave us AJ Styles, mini AJ Styles when they have Hornswoggle come out, which was really good. And I rewatched it, and I completely forgot that this happened. So Ethan Page is going up against Carl Anderson. Carl Anderson says that he's brought the big guns, and AJ Styles' theme song plays, or his TNA theme song, not his WWE one. So the theme song plays, and it cuts to Ethan Page's face, and he's like terrified. He's like, oh, no, oh my god, how has this happened? This can't be right. He's confused. He looks worried, and then it shows you the entrance walkway, where a really short person comes out with a hood up, and it reveals to be Hornswoggle. He pulls the hood back, he puts the arms out, and then he puts the he crosses the hands over, and it cuts back to Ethan Page, and he's like shaking his head that he fell for it. He's like, for fuck's sake. So that was good. That was funny. The Johnny Bravo storyline where he was shot at his wedding. He's alive. He's now out of hospital, and he's blaming somebody for his murder. Well, he's blaming somebody for shooting him. However, nobody believes that it could have been that person. And how does Johnny Bravo know it was dark? And we had a really funny moment where he's shouting at Tommy Dreamer because Tommy Dreamer's investigation ability hasn't been very good, and he's like, I'm telling you, it was, who's it? He's blaming somebody for his murder. I can't remember his name, but I'm telling you, it was this guy. And as he walks away, Tommy Dreamer grabs his catheter, which is connected directly into his penis, and he just pulls it back, and Johnny Bravo just turns around like, ah! And so there wasn't really a lot to talk about for this week match-wise. However, funny stuff-wise, Dynamite has definitely been doing good, and Impact, if you ever find yourself bored and needing just a little bit more wrestling in your life, check out Impact. It's on Sunday mornings on Channel 5. You can get it online wherever you want. And it's just something if you need a little fix and something that will make you smile. Just don't invest too much focus into it because there's no crowd. It is still quite dull. Kenny Omega came out in an interview and said that he would love to do some sort of trade deal with the talent of both AEW and WWE. Kenny Omega says that one of the things he's always wanted to do is put the fans first.
Yeah.
Which is what we were talking about on our last episode. Why not have a Survivor Series between two different companies rather than just the brands within one company? And we mentioned that it's what the fans would want. It would make you a shit ton of money. And the person that shares that opinion seems to be Kenny Omega, which is good.
Kenny's such a, he knows, his own tune.
Yeah.
I love Kenny. I've been watching a bit of his old stuff, like in Bushy and all that, and just, I don't know, he may be not amazing acting sometimes. I don't know what happened, because he was great in the Bullet Club and all that.
He was good when he was being, I don't know, it was good when he was in the Bullet Club. He was good when he was in Japan. Acting wise, obviously his wrestling hasn't, his wrestling talent hasn't decreased whatsoever, but his acting was so much better in Japan, and he just seems to have lost it now. I'm not sure what it is, but Kenny Omega seems to be a good guy. Wrestling seems to be his life.
And games and stuff apparently as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's a bit of a gamer, isn't he? Yeah.
Oh no, he's a weeb gamer and all that.
Is he a weeb gamer?
He's named two of his moves out of Final Fantasy or something like that. His finisher.
The V triggers from Devil May Cry.
Yeah, what's his finisher called?
The One-Winged Angel.
Yeah, that's from Final Fantasy.
Is it? I didn't know that.
I don't know.
what exactly, because I've never played the games, but
no,
it is from
I've played a couple of them, but I don't recognise One Winged Angel.
Yeah, he came out in like anime costumes and all that.
Yes, he's done that a lot. He came out dressed as a Street Fighter character as well, and the Young Bucks came out as Ken and Ryu.
It's so similar to the New Day. Because they coming out Gears of War, they came out in Saiyan armor and all that.
Yeah, WrestleMania last year they were dressed up as Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. Yeah,
just cool in general.
I think it's good that they get to show their personal side as well as their characters.
Finn Balor used to do that in Japan. He used to dress up as like Venom, like with the paint and all that.
Oh right, okay.
But when he came over to NXT, he couldn't do that, obviously for legal reasons.
Yeah.
So it became the Demon, which was the power boost. But usually he would just come out as like cosplaying, painting himself as Spider-Man and all that.
I know when he was in ICW many years ago, he would come out dressed up as the Joker.
Oh yeah.
And he was called Prince Devitt, and then they started to call him the Joker, and obviously that's not a televised show, so they're not breaching any sort of like legal things there. There was a couple of guys that used to come out to the Star Wars theme song and stuff like Noam Dar would come out to the Star Wars theme song. Kenny Williams would come out to the Back to the Future theme song, and he would have the red jacket and the skateboard and stuff from Back to the Future. So very cool stuff. Guys getting to show their personality and not having to worry about crossing any lines or anything like that. But unless we've got anything else to talk about, I think we're going to wrap this up as our shortest episode.
Yeah, just one more thing. Something that I watched recently, in keeping with the theme of just watching wrestling and having fun, is the Jerma Rumble.
That's right, that's the thing that you showed me, is it on YouTube? Yeah.
So there's this Twitch streamer called Jerma, and he uploaded a YouTube video of like just the games doing Royal Rumbles and all that, and called it the Jerma Rumble. And then he done a live action Jerma Rumble,
which was
one of the funniest things I've ever watched, in my opinion.
Don't watch it for the wrestling, watch it for...
No, watch it for the wrestling, because it is wrestling.
Ah, but there wasn't a lot of actual wrestling.
Well, there's a Hurricane Rana in it.
That's true. That's true. He's got me there. There was a Hurricane Rana in there. Yeah.
But just watch it, because you will enjoy yourself, and it kind of...
Somebody dies.
Yeah.
Like at the very beginning, don't they? And then the body just remains in the ring. I thought that was funny. That was good. So there we go, the Jerma Rumble. I will put the link on our social media pages. As we said, we're going to start to do pre-recorded episodes and try and upload them on a schedule. If you get any comments or questions, there won't be the live chat box that we've had, but you know, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. Leave your comments wherever and we'll pick them up. I think maybe I'll put out a couple more things about fan interaction. I think maybe getting some more fantasy booking would be good to talk about on the next show. So we'll get that sorted. But there we go, a wee change, the end to the live streams just now, just because of the way the world works. But there we go. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in the future if you are, and goodbye.
Bye bye.